And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Friday, April 29th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories right here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. And here they are. In a 31-year-old mystery, the sheriff of Hall County in Gainesville, Georgia, yesterday announced that the lady with the glass eye had been identified, according to news reports, by AccessNorthGA.com. Juanita Adams had remained unidentified since her remains were found near Oakwood, Georgia, by a survey crew working along the southbound lane of I-985 on May 22, 1980. Initial forensic examination of a few bones and a small amount of mummified skin revealed she had a prosthetic right eye. A small coral and turquoise ring was found underneath the body. The cause of death could not be determined at the time and still remains a mystery. Further examination of the skeletal remains was also completed by the Smithsonian Institute. Follow-up on any missing person cases was also unsuccessful. Over the next 27 years, multiple investigators followed any leads that were obtained. Several skeletal reconstruction composites were also created and published. And during 2007, an image of the latest skeletal reconstruction was placed on the GBI website and the DOE network, as well as information in regards to contact. On May 24th, 2010, Roxanne Tubols in South Dakota discovered the skeletal image and description of the remains on the GBI website. The cousin alerted other family members who collectively believed the image and description fit that of a missing family member, Juanita Adams. On March 21st, 2011, after DNA test with relatives, law enforcement officials received confirmation that the human remains were indeed those of Juanita Adams. In 1978, Adams had left the Pine Ridge Reservation, traveling to Washington, D.C. to participate in an American Indian Movement function, but never returned home. Funeral services are scheduled for April 30th in Red Shirt, South Dakota. And today we got an update from Window Rock, Arizona, and the Navajo Nation with Navajo Times reporter Noel Smith. Tell us a little bit about some of the stories that the Times is covering this week for the nation.
Well, the Navajo Nation Council had met last week for their spring session. And one of the things they did manage to do is pass the amendments to Title II of the Navajo Nation Code.
Okay, and tell our listeners there a little bit about what those Navajo Nation codes might mean.
What the Title II is, it contains the law that establishes the Navajo government and kind of details the authorities and responsibilities of the legislative and executive branches.
Okay. And
the reason why the council is amending Title II is because they are accommodating the reduction in membership. Right. So it went from 88 to 24 delegates, and that was decided by the people back in December 2009 through a referendum vote.
Right. And people are finding that it's not easy to downsize because accordingly all kinds of things around there have to be changed. My understanding is a judge has admonished the legislators to be careful about how they do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. I think, the people thought they're just going to go in there and start changing and reforming stuff, but it's not, because there's the process they have to go through. And one of the things that was happening prior to the spring session was the Chief Justice, Herb Yazzie, issued a memo to the council reminding them that they have to put these changes to the Navajo people, because the Navajo people are the ones who have the final authority. They ended up doing is just basically condensing the 12 standing committees that were under the 88 delegates to 4 committees.
Okay.
So with that, they also took the responsibilities of the 12 committees and just kind of distributed it amongst the 4. So they didn't do any big reform. Before they were going into council, they were going to try to change the impeachment laws and the process for selecting judges and justices for the tribal courts. But when they got to the session itself, they took that out and said, we'll just, work on just getting our standing committee structure in place so we can start moving along. And they also wanted to remind, the people that this is just the first step. From here, they're going to continue working on amending Title II and seeing what else they can develop. And if it's something major, they will bring it to the people through.
Okay. Explain to the audience a little bit out there about why it's important for these standing committees. Does the legislation start at the legislative level and then get assigned to standing committees for analysis, or is it the other way around? Is where legislative acts are incubated up, like for economic development, jurisdictional authorities and stuff like that? What is the importance of the standing committees for the nation?
The standing committees do hear the bills. It does start the process for these bills to go before council. And under the old Title II, they would have to go before two standing committees, but this new one changes it. This other committee they have that's called, in Navajo, it means the committee of the whole.
Okay.
And then it would go to council. But the legislative process does start at these standing committees, so they hear the I guess you would say the arguments either for the bill or against the bill, and that's where whoever's involved with the bill process comes forth and talks to the committees and lets them know that this is what this is all about, and then from there it just kind of goes along its legislative process.
It's kind of interesting watching the whole process, because from the beginning to end, it's probably been about at least a 2-year process of reorganizing the Navajo Nation government. You got 550 other tribes out there, and so a lot of other tribes are watching in to see this whole governmental process of reform and reorganization that's taken now 2 years and is likely, the way it sounds, to take another 2 years to get completely in place. What are the kind of businesses going on while they're reorganizing their structure? What kind of issues are they dealing with?
Well, they had the reorganization on one hand, and then while they were trying to sort that out, they also had to finalize the budget for this fiscal year. So they had to take time out to do that, and then go back to the amending of Title II. But a good chunk of what the winter session, the spring session focus on before anything else could. So it was like at a standstill at this point,
Okay, and in the budgetary discussions, are they doing the same thing that a lot of state and federal governments are? Is the Navajo Nation dealing with how to save money, cut programs, or or with the price of the barrel of oil going up, is the Navajo Nation flush with cash, or where are things there with the nation?
Just like the nation and the states, they're trying to live within their means, and they're trying to, do the cost reduction, see if they can, save money by, cutting service to this program, or, just looking for where they can find those extra dollars. I mean, we're hurting like the rest of, the nation, and you can tell that they're really just trying hard to figure out where they're going to get this money to accommodate the needs of the tribe and of the people,
You seen any kind of new initiatives or any sources of revenue that the nation's looking at?
Not to my knowledge. What I do is I really don't follow the Budget and Finance Committee. That's more of another reporter's area. So I kind of just here and there and hear what they're doing. But as far as I know, they're not finding any other new ways of generating revenue at this point.
Okay. If we were to go to the Navajo Times website or the newspaper, what other kind of articles are we looking at that have been covered this week?
What else? There was this Navajo man is suing the Farmington Police Department and the San Juan County Sheriff's Department up in New Mexico. Apparently, when he was out on St. Patrick's Day, a sheriff's deputy assaulted him, basically, beating him up, and it was caught on the sheriff deputy's vehicle camera. Yeah. So now he is suing, like I said, those law enforcement agencies, and he's claiming that his civil rights were violated and that he sustained physical injuries and emotional distress from the assault. And the deputy who was involved was suspended with pay pending an internal investigation, and that was on April 6th. Well, we found out Monday, April 25th, that he was fired on grounds that he violated the department's use of force policy. And this deputy is a 5-year veteran of the sheriff's office. And the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission is taking a stance of that, they've heard testimony from various Navajos living in the San Juan County area that this incident, is not uncommon.
Not isolated. In fact, it seems that the nation has been working with several different cities and jurisdictions in regards to their relationship to individual arrests and how people are treated during those arrests.
Right. And the city of Farmington does have a memorandum of agreement with the Navajo Nation as far as, evaluating race relations. And this is kind of just another way to what's already happened before in Farmington.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised to hear that the officer has been arrested, because it seemed to me, I've watched the Navajo Nation, in fact, Farmington during the 70s seemed to me to be quite a hotbed of those kinds of protests against police brutality and the what do you call the drinking tanks where people were arrested at night and put in these holding tanks and stuff like that. So it's an ongoing. So the fact that an officer was let go fairly fast seems that maybe the police are beginning to respond and take seriously these kinds of issues there.
Yeah, it seems that way, especially with, having this video there, and then to top it off, this video is on YouTube, for the world to see. And
because I'm always reading about either a huge basketball tournament or some event. Is there anything going on down there that you can tell us about?
Apparently there is going to be a movie that will be released in regards to the connection between Native Americans and running, like cross country. And some local Navajo runners are going to be featured in this documentary. Another thing that sports-wise is longtime Gallup Bengal coach John Lamazi had passed away last Friday. And for those who know about basketball in New Mexico, Gallup Bengals are, one of the top basketball programs in the state, both girls and boys. And Lamazi was there for several years and took the girls to state tournament several times, and I think he won maybe 5 or 6
different titles during it. Yeah.
So, and that was a loss within this area, and I think to the Navajo Nation too, because he was more than just a coach. He was also, a teacher, and he would guide his athletes, to be the best that they could. And if I think he put championships before, he put the academics before the championships. He wanted his athletes to be the best they could. So
that's good to hear.
That's
sorry to hear that we've lost someone like that. Perhaps he's incubated up a lot of students that can take his legacy on into the future.
Yeah, well, I went to Gallup High, and I didn't have him as a teacher, or I didn't have him as a coach, but you still knew who he was. Even as a resident of Gallup, you hear his name, automatically. Bengal basketball. So I think he will be missed.
Okay. Well, with that, we're out of time for today. Noel, we want to thank you for joining the Native News Update from Window Rock, Arizona. I look forward to having you come on the show again in the future.
Okay. Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank you for joining with us, and come back again soon. Miigwech.